If you're a DJ, you're not gonna like this video. I just saw this and I'm twiggered. I'm twiggered, guys. No, I saw this video off of Dr. Mix's channel, and he puts up some really good videos. He's a really good musician, so um, I appreciate his work. Um, but I'm gonna beg to differ on his video here about what DJs actually do. Actually, I don't even know. I mean, I think he shows what DJs actually do. And what DJs actually do basically is they have controllers that are very sophisticated and help them mix and manipulate tracks together. That's pretty much the long, tall, and short of it. Now, there are all different degrees of DJs. There are some DJs out there that I'm sure are very musically inclined. I'm sure there's actual DJs that come from a strong musical background and go into it. I mean, obviously the type of music that is around these days, which for the most part is pretty bad. It's not real music, or you could argue. You can argue things like that. There is a difference between good music and bad music. There absolutely is. There's a tremendous difference. What, you don't believe me? You're going to say, well, music is subjective. Well, I don't know. Ask the plants. They seem to know the difference between really good music and not good music. And what I'm referring to, of course, is it has been proven over and over again that classical music really helps plants grow and they respond. Just like water. Yeah, and other organic elements respond very favorably. Babies, for instance, it has been known for a very long time that playing classical music for babies helps develop their cognitive abilities and can really help them in the future become better musicians and far more artistic people. And there just is a huge difference between really good music and really bad music. For the most part, disco is terrible music. Like, for the most part, disco is just terrible. And what we have today with electronic dance music, for the most part, is just disco 2.0 or 3.0 or 4.1 or whatever. It's just the same old crap, in my opinion. I'm not saying that there isn't good disco. There are some good disco songs, for sure. There really is. And there are some good bands that actually were into making disco. And just like today, I'm sure there's good electronic dance music bands. I'm sure trap, whatever. I don't even know what trap is, by the way. I don't even know what a lot of these terms are. Now, I make a ton of electronic music, meaning that I use keyboards, synthesizers, virtual synthesizers, and even drum machines and drum pads and actual drums and all that. I play multiple instruments. I'm actually a musician. So I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to what an actual musician is, as opposed to a DJ. A DJ is not a musician. There are DJs that are musicians. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure there are some good DJs that are actually, classically trained pianists and, guitarists and whatever else, and they do a great job. Or maybe not a great job, but they just decided to go into that genre. But when you are essentially taking pieces of music and you are manipulating those pieces of music using highly sophisticated software and hardware, these controllers, like what you have here with the Tractor Control S5, where you can instantly, select and, splice or mix or loop or, repeat areas, and it's all very tactile, it's all very intuitive. It's like these controllers become more and more accessible for the average person, that the average person could just get one of these controllers and like, oh my god, I already feel like a DJ. I just mixed a few tracks together. Holy crap, I can do this. You can't do that as a musician. I mean, get the fuck out of town. And that's a huge difference. The huge difference between what a DJ would get excited about and think, wow, I could really do this, is how accessible and easy it is for them to do this, because they're not actually making the music. They're just manipulating it. And that's the huge difference. That's why DJs are not musicians. They can be if they already are a musician, but a DJ themselves is not a musician. And the term for musician, because there's a lot of confusion about this, because like I know a lot of people that make electronic music that aren't musicians. And they would really be angry with me saying that. And they'd be like, well, what do you mean I'm not a musician? I'm making music all day. I do this, I do that. I'll just say one thing. Pull the plug. That's how I would define a musician. If you have to plug in, like if you can't make good music, really good, competent music, without being plugged in, you're not a musician. That's all. That's all. It's that simple. So you might be somebody that plays, keyboards in a band or synthesizers and stuff like that. Well, the power goes off. You can still pick up a piano and play. Right? Maybe you won't play as proficiently. Maybe you won't sound quite as spectacular. But if you can play, then you are a musician. And it is a very personal and emotional thing to see DJs who try to push themselves as musicians and how they have overtaken the music scene. And this is real. So what I got angry on this video, I didn't get angry. I mean, I was respectfully disagreeing. I left a bunch of comments. But from what I've seen in local music scenes and around the world, is a trend that is very disturbing. And the trend is real musicians are being replaced by non-musicians, DJs. And this has been happening for a long time. This goes back a couple decades. And especially when it comes to we could talk about nightclubs for one, where, there's never really bands unless, it's a special occasion or something. There's always DJs. A lot of pubs and stuff have switched to DJs as well, where they used to have rock bands come in and stuff and play, classic rock and blues and whatever. Now they have DJs come in. Now it might be cheaper for these establishments to hire DJs, although DJs seem to get paid way more than musicians as well, which is another thing to throw on top of it. But like the average person now is going to have a wedding and they're not thinking, well, what kind of band do you want to hire? They're thinking, let's get this DJ, or which kind of DJ do you want? And that's a problem. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. It hurts people that train their entire lives to be musicians and have somebody coming in and manipulating sounds with sophisticated equipment and trying to pass themselves off as a musician and making serious bank at the same time. That is a serious problem, folks. I'm sorry. You should not be supporting this. There's no fucking way I would hire a DJ for a party. No way. No chance. You get a band and you get people that are actually, musicians. Because real live music is essential for humanity. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful things that humans do. And they've been doing it all throughout civilization. All of civilization has had music as an integral part of civilization. In fact, a lot of the barometer of what would be high, periods of artistic achievement would be periods of great music, right? Bach, Beethoven, right? Mozart, the Beatles, all these eras and bands. We could say the Roaring Twenties, or the classical jazz era, or the blues, African American blues. There's just so many different genres of music that you could fall into that represent these wonderful periods in humanity of artistic achievement. How about Django Reinhardt in Paris, or France in the 1930s? I mean, you think about the different wonderful periods of music and all the different musicians and how much influence and impact and how music has just changed. You think about eras and you know, like you think Brazil, you think bossa nova. You know, if you think in Cuba, you might think mambo. If you're thinking Jamaica, you're probably thinking reggae. You know, music is so integral to how we identify ourselves. This, you know, oh, I got a beat, and here's another song with the same beat, and I'm going to mix the two together, and I'm going to repeat this little chorus part, and I'm going to fade this and fade that out. That's not making music, folks. That's manipulating sounds. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. And these people are taking away the fucking livelihood of real fucking musicians who, in many cases, have trained their entire lives to try to eke out a meager sort of career just fucking keeping their head above water. If you know anything about being a musician, the bulk of musicians, I mean, one of the major problems in the United States is that musicians can't afford healthcare. Like, there are so many musicians out there that don't have healthcare because they just can't fucking afford it. I wonder what the percentage is of DJs that can't afford healthcare. These are serious questions or serious concerns. And I don't believe it's debatable. I do not believe it's debatable. I am sorry, it's not debatable. It's not. Not in my opinion. And I do not think that this electronic dance music, this trap, this all these different forms of electronic music that dubstep and shit like that. I mean, you might like it. I'm not here to bash you for liking stuff. You could say that all music has a place and a time where it fits and it reflects for better or for worse. And you could say that some of the electronic music that is being made can really fit certain themes and, you know, and you know, be an artistic sort of expression of a contemporary sort of scene or a vibe or whatever. I can dig all that. But it goes back to the plants. It goes back to what is real music and what are real musicians. And ultimately, we are seeing that being eradicated. And we are also seeing what I would argue very strongly is that popular music has gotten worse and worse over the past few decades. Like, it's really gotten bad. When I do videos and I break down, you know, Nicki Minaj or Lil Wayne or XXXTentacion or 6ix9ine or any of these hideous characters, I can't even believe how unmusical their music is. When I look into so much of the electronic music that's being made today, especially the hip-hop stuff with all the triplets, it just, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, it all sounds the same to me. And it's like the triplets, it's like you're just throwing stuff in because you're trying to fit as much as you can. You want the music to sound more sophisticated, so you're trying to fill it up as much as you can. But since you're not a real musician, in most cases, you're using pre-recorded sounds and you're manipulating them. And it is what it is. And so I have to say that DJs, by and large, are not at all musicians, and they're actually anti-musicians. And that they're hurting musicians, and they're hurting popular music. Yeah, I would say that. Absolutely. I would say that the music industry is satanic. Yes, absolutely. And I would say that they are actually making awful music on purpose and that they're dumbing down humanity. And this push a button, you're a musician type mentality is the biggest pile of bullshit ever. It's the biggest pile of bullshit ever. Because as soon as the plug is pulled, you are the musician that you are. When the plug is pulled and you can't fucking make a note for your life, you can't play a song, then WTF are you? Right? What are you? You're not a musician. You're somebody that gets a really high-powered, sophisticated machine that has been tailor-made to make everything that you do as simple and as easy and as accessible as possible. But you want to come with your super, just think about this. You bring your kit, and this is just one piece of a kit. A lot of these DJs will have all these other little things and scratchy things and sliders and stuff. But this is an example of it. You show up with your kit. Your kit has songs that are preloaded. It's basically an art of mixing two songs. You can't really mix three because it gets overcrowded and the ear can't handle it. So it's always a mixing one song into another. So you're taking work that's already been done, often in the case, which is already a mix of a mix, where people are sampling and cutting, and you're already taking stuff that's been highly processed and is in many ways is not real authentic music, and you're taking that and you're splicing it and you're manipulating it and you're mixing it together and you're getting paid for it, which is crazy. I wouldn't have a problem if people did this in the room. I wouldn't have a problem, you go to your friend's place for a party and somebody pulls out a machine like this and they start mixing some songs and you start doing some dancing. But my fucking word, you can't even imagine what you're missing when you think about what a live band and what a live band can do. The most sophisticated music is not the music you dance to. That's tribal music, like music that you dance to, which is all good, like drums and beats and strong bass. That's just basic music. It is basic music. Don't come to me and try to tell me, oh, it's actually quite no, it's not sophisticated. It's not sophisticated. Most hip hop is not at all sophisticated. It's the antithesis of sophistication. And that's what I said about the triplets. It's like, I want my music to sound more, and I got to stick more notes, more drum things to make it sound more musical. It's not music for the most part. And most of these people making this stuff aren't musicians. And the worst part of it is that they're hurting actual musicians. They're taking away. It's an awful sort of thing for real musicians these days, because I can't even tell you how many musicians I know that can't get gigs or struggle to get gigs because of all the DJs. Because all these clubs and all these bars and restaurants are hiring DJs. Weddings, hiring DJs. Banquets, hiring DJs. And this is, it is what it is. It's a reflection of the time. You could say, well, that's what people are into. People are going to pay for what they want. No, people are under mind control. People are being programmed into shitty music. It is what it is. I have to come out and call a spade a spade. And I know there's a ton of musicians out there. I would say probably most musicians out there would definitely agree with what I'm saying. There are some, like Dr. Mix here, who would beg to differ. And they would say, no, actually, I think there's an art form to it. Well, yeah, maybe there's an art form to it, but you're not a musician. Right? There might be an art form to it. There might be levels of skill. There might be levels of coordination. Well, that guy sure knows how to use that machine and mix those already made tracks really well. That guy has the skill of mixing those things, but pull the plug. And pull the plug, and all of a sudden the guy's like, well, I can't make my music anymore. Well, it wasn't your music to begin with. You're just manipulating it. So why are you taking away the work of actual musicians? Well, you can't blame the individual. People are going to do what they do. If they make money, they're going to go and make money. But it's a really sad reflection of how the music industry, which is totally satanic and is programming people into total degeneracy and homosexuality and LGBTQ+, XYZ, and nihilism and narcissism and just awful, sadomasochism and sexual deviancy and everything else. It's just disgusting it's disgusting. It's fucking beyond disgusting how awful today's music is. And it's all by design. They're purposely fucking torturing us with their crap. And they're saying, this is what everyone's listening to it. Aren't you listening to it? You compare the eras of music, I mean, boy, oh boy, your mind would be blown. You compare the eras of music, take the golden era of jazz, when jazz and blues were the most popular things on the radio, and compare it to today's popular music. There's no comparison. There is absolutely no comparison. And as I said before, some music's dance music, some music's folk music, these forms of music can have, degrees of sophistication for sure. But at the end of the day, you can pull the plug and people can still play it. And it requires, for the most part, most forms of music do require very high degrees of skill to be able to perform. So it's personal for me, to see this and to see this type of takeover of what real music is. We are at the abyss. There's so much good musician. There's so many good musicians out there. Let's just be honest, okay? We just don't hear about most of them. There's so many good bands out there, but we just don't hear about most of them. But we sure as fuck hear about all the DJs and the 6ix9ines and the XXXTentations and all these people that have no musical abilities to even begin with. And here they are selling hundreds of millions of copies, selling out stadiums. Drake, people like that. They're dumbing us down and they're programming us into idiocy. This is the idiocracy. There's no doubt about it, and the music is a perfect reflection of it. And I'll call a spade and just come out and say it. DJs aren't musicians. Unless they happen to be a musician on the side, like where I'm a musician, I play the trumpet, but I also do DJing. Well, that's cool. When you're the Mr. Trumpet man, you're the musician. When you're Mr. DJ, you're the mixer manipulator guy. And that's all there is to it. And I think that collectively, all of humanity should turn their back on this DJ crap and turn towards real musicians and embrace real music. There's no replacement to real music. There's no replacement. Live real music featuring real musicians is one of the most beautiful things that any human being can experience. It can lift your soul to places you can't even imagine. This repetitive mixing of repetitive beats and repetitive music, which is in many ways anti-music and is so utterly unsophisticated other than all the little fucking things that is thrown in, it's not real music, folks. That's all there is to it. I really look forward to reading your comments on this one. I hope if you are a DJ, you don't take it personally. It's not against you. I don't wish anybody ill will. Well, maybe some people, but that's another story. But I do appreciate lots of different genres of music, even hip-hop. But I'm just saying what I believe is going on. Please leave your comments below. I look forward to reading them. Have a wonderful day.